Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to this reading for the new moon partial eclipse that we're having in Aries on the 29th of March. It's going to be Saturday around 6:58 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, as usual, take that time differential into consideration when you're trying to figure out when this new moon is going to happen for you. And always look at where this new moon or any new moon or full moon is happening in your birth chart, right? Where is it transiting your birth chart? So look at 9 degrees of Aries. Where is that? Then you'll know. Now, this new moon, part of the eclipse season, but it's actually a rather quiet new moon. There's not anything intensely crazy going on like there was with the full moon eclipse in Virgo that we had before this. Now, that was an intense one. There was a lot going on with that one. But sometimes less is more. And that's what I want to say with this new moon. Sometimes you don't need a lot of crazy aspects in a chart to see that it's still significant. And what this chart is representing is obviously the significance of that Aries archetype, the warrior archetype of independence, of the pioneer, of the shapeshifter as well. Aries has this tendency to act first, think later, right? And we all have that Aries archetype within us somewhere, and we have to look at where do we want to act first and think later. Where do we want to start something new? Where do we want to be that fire starter that Aries can bring? What in our lives do we want to achieve that is for not just the betterment of ourselves, which Aries has to do, but also the betterment of those around us, of our environment, of our life. There's a half square to Uranus with this new moon, and that's really it. All right, that's really it. That's the only aspect that this new moon is making, as far as major aspects go. And even then, a half square is not really technically considered a major aspect. So the fact that it's making a half square over Uranus and Taurus, and Uranus already had sort of a small but impactful influence on the full moon eclipse in Virgo that we just had 2 weeks ago. Uranus is taking control again, but it's in a way that is meant to bring out, I should say, some stimulation, right? A half square is the beginning of the itch, where a full square is the challenge representing itself to be cleared. So a half square is sort of like brings our attention and our focus on what it is that is needed. Now, again, with Aries being more, tuned in with adventure, right? And just living in the moment and being free in the moment without, again, really thinking about what it's doing, except for, I want it now. It's kind of like that J.G. Wentworth commercial. That's Aries, okay? So what we're really learning, and at the same time Mercury's conjunct Venus, which I will talk about in a second, but what we're really learning is how do we strive for that independence? How do we strive for that freedom? How do we strive for that creative passion that we want to start, that we want to begin, that we want to, spark it into life without trailblazing and bulldozing our way through life, with being more mindful, right? Because while Aries is very much in the moment and about doing something now, and it can change its mind in 2 seconds, because and I always joke about it as an Aries sun myself. I always joke about how Aries tends to want to start 7 different fires at once, because it gets distracted and likes to start 7 different fires, where Leo likes to keep the fire burning, and Sagittarius wants to make sure that it's the right fire that's burning. Aries just wants to start the fire because it wants to start the fire because it's exciting to start a fire. So that excitement, where can we put that into perspective in our lives? Where do you need excitement, right? Where do you need to also, I would say, to feel those emotions, which I think we're going to talk about that with this conjunction between Venus and Mercury, and obviously Venus and Neptune, and all 3 of them together. the fact that Venus and Mercury are still retrograde and Neptune's kind of in the middle, it is sandwiched in the middle, I think tells a beautiful story, right? It tells a story about how do we want to feel our feelings, which Aries doesn't like to do. Aries is not a very emotional driven sign unless it's triggered by rage. Okay? So, but not only rage, I mean, the positive side of Aries and the emotion side of Aries is that if it's led by its emotions, it's because it feels it's the right thing to do. It feels like the sacrifice is worth it. I know we talk about sacrifices with Virgo and Pisces archetypes, but Aries also has that sacrifice energy to it because it's the warrior, right? So if the sacrifice is worth it, then it will want to feel those emotions and it will want to lead with those emotions. Neptune being sandwiched in the middle between two retrograde planets that are Venus and Mercury, I think, tells, especially in Pisces, tells this story. And it's that end degree, the last degree of Neptune, right, that we're trying to, Neptune and Pisces, excuse me, that we're trying to get through. And with this partial eclipse energy on top of that, I think our dreams kind of come into a reality. You know, we start to really see our dreams for what we want them to be, and we start to see the dreams manifesting, and we start to see the way forward, we start to see the way through. And so this Aries energy, this Aries archetype allows us to really take action on those dreams, allows us to really make it a priority to take leadership in our lives, to take control of our lives, and to do it and not think too much, because Mercury is retrograde, right? Again, Neptune is sandwiched between these two retrograde planets, and not worry about what other people think as well with that aspect there. Not getting, lost in identities of other people, not getting lost in identities of institutions, of corporations, of companies, of groups of people as well, right? It's not what they want, it's what I want. That's what Aries is saying. It's not what you think and it's not what you care that I do. It's what I think and what I care that I do. It's about me. It's about expressing a healthy ego. That's what this new moon eclipse, partial eclipse, wants us to discover or rediscover. How do we play the cards of life with a healthy ego? And speaking of cards, let's jump into that. All right, let's okay, there we go. Typical Mercury retrograde. Speaking of Mercury retrograde, typical Mercury retrograde shit. I couldn't get the microphone to work once I switched screens. Okay, let's see what the overall focus is. What is the overall focus for this new moon? Thank you. What did I say? What did I say? Go for your dreams. Go for those dreams. Go for it. Just go for it. That's what Aries would say. Why are you thinking too much about it? One more. Actually, that one right there. Be patient. Yes. Because Aries energy, the Aries archetype, is not very patient. And be decisive, I think, on the bottom. I think I'm going to take that too, because Aries likes to teach us how to be more decisive, how to be more firm in our convictions. All right, Aries teaches us to make those decisions again, without thinking, but it is with thinking. I don't want to keep saying that because Aries does think. Aries thinks, for sure. What is the challenge? What are the possible challenges for this protection? Okay, and what else? One more, please. It's possible. Equilibrium. Yeah. That also makes sense. Protection, I think, being a challenge as in protecting those dreams. Right? And protecting yourself. You see how it's a knocker? Alright? Permission is what I'm getting out of that. Permission to enter the space. Aries doesn't have to say anything. Aries can just send that aura where you would look at the Aries and know that Aries is saying, you better ask permission first, right? That's protection. And Aries is very protective. Especially of the self, but Aries is very protective in general. If Aries, again, if it's for some kind of worthy sacrifice, then Aries will protect it at all costs, literally and figuratively at all costs. So look at protection in your life. What do you want to protect? What should you protect? Where do you need to protect yourself more? Where do you need to give people permission, or where do you need to stop giving people permission, or places and things as well? It's not just people. And I think that's where equilibrium comes in, right? again, healthy ego. Bringing our lives more into equilibrium, because sometimes we just need to take chances and risks, and Aries will teach us to do that. But again, also following that dream in a very protected way. So bringing more balance, bringing more stability, bringing more security, bringing more reliability in our lives. I feel like that's what's coming from that equilibrium. But feeling in equilibrium in ourselves, at least making a plan for that, right? And then once you make the decision, once you become decisive, then sticking to your guns, right? Sticking to that decision without wavering from it. Yeah, I think that's kind of the message. Once you feel in equilibrium with whatever it is that you're trying to do, or just in life in general, when you feel like your life has finally come into some kind of sense of equilibrium, or at least that you know the path towards that equilibrium, stick with it. Stick with it. All right, let's see. I'm gonna flip those back up because I haven't been feeling reversals lately. I feel like the cards kind of just say what they need to say, and if I feel the energy of reversal, then I'll take it. But it's like I don't know. I'm just intuitively knowing it. It's because my deck is upside down. All right, 5 of coins. I knew the star was going to come up. I had a feeling the star was going to come up. King of Swords, there it is, about being decisive, being firm in your decision. Strength on the bottom. Yeah, I think this is very much a healing period. This Aries eclipse allows us a healing period of ourselves, and so with that comes healing of the self-love and self-worth that comes with that Ace of Cups. Finding love and comfort in our dreams and our decisions towards those dreams, but also finding love in the way that we think, in the way that we perceive our lives. Finding love in any part of ourselves, I feel, with this 5 of coins that might feel betrayed or might feel abandoned. Sending love to parts of ourselves that feels lonely, because Aries, as an independent energy, can fall very easily towards loneliness, and then it can blame. The shadow side of that is it can blame other people for its loneliness, instead of looking in the man in the mirror, or it can feel like it's not worthy of other people's presence because it's not a good enough warrior archetype, right? It's not a good enough fire starter. It's not a good enough pioneer. Whatever aspect of that archetype isn't shining forth as strongly as Aries thinks that it should. So we have to look at those part of ourselves. My brain's moving faster than I could speak. That doesn't feel good enough, that doesn't feel strong enough, that doesn't feel maybe even ready enough, that doesn't feel like it can begin anew, that it can start whatever it needs to start. That part of us that maybe is a little bit impatient, maybe is a little bit rash, maybe needs to think more as well, because that Knight of Swords with that King of Swords and the Aries archetype, maybe we're being asked to also make sure that we are thinking things through before we jump the gun on something, or not. Maybe we're being asked as well to look at the other aspect of that, the other side of that spectrum. Where do you need to stop thinking too much and just go for it? There's that equilibrium, right? That's how we find equilibrium. Okay. I hope this helped. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you in the next one.